and Highway 20, just about on top of Hosford and moving off toward the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. We'll go back to this, and we'll give a new trace just based on that current location, which, again, this is an impressive looking view on the storm relative velocity, and not in a good way. It's in a bad way. We're going to go out. I'll just go ahead and stretch this out to about an hour. Let me just make sure that I'm going to reorient that just a little bit and go a little more toward the east-northeast and keep it at about 30 miles per hour. So based on that, we could be getting near Midway at about 40 minutes. Now, again, this is no imminent danger for Midway or Havana. This is a long way out, and we've seen these things kind of spin down and then tighten back up. But that's exactly what has happened with this particular storm within about the last 15, 20 minutes. It has definitely spun back up, part of a supercell thunderstorm. And it's not the only stuff going on. There's a really impressive line of storms coming through Bay County and Panama City again. Multiple tornado warnings there, very likely damaging winds and some large hail with that. Also, we've had a couple strong storms over the eastern parts of Hamilton County, moving over the eastern parts of Eccles County. No warning for that storm, but it's an impressive one. I'm talking about the one over here on the right-hand side of the screen that's passing just to the east of Jasper and moving out over the rural areas of eastern Eccles County. But the main threat right now is what's going on with this confirmed tornado moving through the northeastern parts of Liberty County and moving into the south central parts of Gadsden County. We've seen a debris signature. I'm going to go back and we'll look at this over the last, I'm just going to look over the last 15 minutes and let this loop and show you what we're seeing. So where that area of green shows up, that is confirmation of debris in the air. So the radar is hitting stuff that is not precipitation. It's not hail, it's not rain, it's not anything else. It's irregularly shaped targets that the radar is seeing. So that's why it shows up that way. So right along Highway 65 and now likely just to the north of Highway 20. So this is already starting to move away from Hosford, but certainly residents into the southwestern parts of Gadsden County where that tornado warning is located. National Weather Service just sent out an update, confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado located 9 miles south of Greensboro. That's about 13 miles southwest of Quincy, moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. So again, we're talking about where you see this little debris signature right here, right over Hosford, and it is moving off toward the northeast. Let's go back to the radar. We've got these. There are some other strong storms too, and I failed to mention that some of these approaching Crawfordville could also have some damaging wind gusts. We've seen the lightning increase a fair amount there within about the past 5 to 10 minutes. That's something else to watch out for. A lot of times when you get this kind of a bowing segment that shows up, and I'm talking about when you get this kind of a bow like this, that front end of it right about here could have some of those stronger damaging wind gusts and sometimes can spin up a little brief tornado. So while there are no warnings in Wakulla County for these storms right here, residents from Crawfordville down to Panacea just need to stay weather aware for these storms as they move off quickly about 30 miles per hour off toward the east-northeast. The main threat continues to be this confirmed tornado that's moving from Liberty County into southwestern parts of Gadsden County. Now, you'll see on the warning that it does include Leon County. It is very likely going to stay north of that. It's just when the polygon is issued, if it captures any part of a county, that is included within that warning. But I'm going to go back and just turn on the warning so that you can see what I'm talking about here. So the area here is, it's a scary looking situation. Looks like, Josh Green just pointed out, looks like a debris ball even showing up on regular radar just at the northeast of Hosford. And that's also what we're talking about, these velocities. And I'm a little apprehensive to even show what these velocities are. Let me turn off the warning so I'm going to get in close and give you an idea. But this, I don't think we're going to like what we see here. We're seeing gate-to-gate shear of 104, 96, 93 miles per hour. So this is a confirmed tornado just to the northeast of Hosford, just to the south of Lowry, moving off toward the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. Residents, northeastern Liberty County. I know it's a rural area, but if you know anyone that lives, say, just east of Florida 65 and north of Highway 20, so this is between the Leon County line and Hosford and just north of Highway 20, that's where you need to get to that safe place right now. Lowest interior room with no windows. A mobile home is not a safe place to be during this tornado. As a last resort, go out and get into a ditch. I know there's heavy rain, and that's a problem, but a mobile home will not withstand these winds if this tornado hits you. So, again, we're looking at the winds here easily up to 100 miles per hour, if not better than that. And we've already seen the debris signature, so this is a dangerous, dangerous situation. That's looking even worse, to be honest with you, the amount of debris. Hopefully this debris is just trees. It's a very heavily forested area, but this did pass right over Hosford, and the debris in the air is now showing up. Again, we're talking about this stuff right here. That bright green, that's large debris. That's starting to get up to the top of the scale where we're talking about non-precip type stuff showing up. So you need to get to a safe place. If you're anywhere just to the east or northeast of Hosford toward the Gadsden County line, along Highway 65 especially, that's kind of the best landmark because there aren't a lot of larger roads out here, but it doesn't mean that people don't live here. So if you're familiar with the Lowry community, which is in Liberty County, just the Liberty County side of the Gadsden County line, you need to let some folks know there they need to get to a safe place. Mobile home is not safe. A car is not a safe place. You need to get into the lowest interior room of a solid structure. All right, I'm seeing already some reports of trees down on Bluntstown Highway around Hosford. Let's hope that's what this debris is. It's certainly possible, but we know that there are quite a few homes in the Hosford area. So we'll want to get some help out there to check on some people pretty soon now that the main part of this has started to move away. If you are just joining us, we're talking about a confirmed tornado that we know has caused damage in the Hosford area. We've seen a strong sign of a debris signature showing up with this particular storm as it moves off toward the northeast. The main threats right now with this storm will be from northeastern Liberty County into the extreme southern parts of Gadsden County. So south of Greensboro, very likely this will stay south and you won't have any issues. I'd say it's very likely to stay south of Quincy, but that's a close enough call that even though Quincy's not in that tornado warning, you'll want to stay weather aware too. I'm going to take the lightning back off of this you've got this what we call a debris ball that kind of shows up on radar, and I'm talking about this little area right here where you kind of get that little hook echo and you kind of get that debris signature. It's not a good sign. I don't know how many ways to say it, but if you have friends or family that live in that area right along the Gadsden Liberty County line to the northeast of Hosford, not too far from Lowry, you need to tell them right away to get to a safe place. And that means not in a car and not in a mobile home. If you know, as a case of last resort, you get into a ditch. That is going to be safer in 100+ mile-an-hour winds of the tornado than being in a car or in a mobile home. So go back to the storm relative velocity. It still shows this strong signature showing up where we're talking about. There's the gate-to-gate shear of 104 miles per hour. And what that means is the gate-to-gate means the wind blowing this way versus the wind blowing this way. That's the way that the Doppler effect works on a radar. So if there's a 50-mile-an-hour wind blowing this way and a 50-mile-an-hour wind blowing the other way right next to each other, that indicates a circulation. Typically, in this kind of a case, it could be underdoing it. Based on the debris we've seen, I'd say it's probably even stronger than that as far as what we've seen. We're seeing some other little colors starting to show up here. Still seeing these winds topping 100 miles per hour with this cell, which is now the strongest circulation is well away from Hosford, but it is very close to Lowry and now just to the east of Highway 65. So if you live east of Highway 65 in Gadsden County, that's what's coming your direction. So you need to get to a safe place right away. They've extended the tornado warning now until 4:45, and that goes up into more of Gadsden County. So it's the crawl you see at the bottom of the screen. While that says Leon County, the warning has actually been extended more into Gadsden County. So the Fort Braden area, Lake Talquin's still very close to this, or will be. You'll still, if you live anywhere along the shores of Lake Talquin or nearby, you still need to get into a safe place. But it's looking more like this could be more of a threat into parts of Gadsden County. So I'm going to, are you still carrying the speed? I say northeast at 20. I'm going to still carry the speed at 30 just to make sure that everybody that's upstream from this gets to a safe place. So based on a 30-mile-an-hour speed, we're talking about this could be near Wetumpka in about 17 minutes, and this could certainly get at least close to Quincy by about 4:41. So yeah, Quincy is kind of at the northern edge of this. I'm going to animate this and see if that. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I might even adjust that a little bit more toward Quincy, just based on this little turn that's made a little more toward the northeast. Now, this storm has had a history of spinning up and then weakening and kind of broadening out. If that happens, this would obviously lessen the potential impacts on Gadsden County, but we know that it's been causing damage in Liberty County, and especially around the Hosford area, and right along Highway 65. It looks as though it's made a little bit of a turn more toward the north. It could be undergoing some impacts where the whole thunderstorm undergoes what's called that Fujiwara effect, where it kind of rotates around, the stuff that's around it kind of gets pushed away. And that's a possibility that it could be turning a little more toward the north, and that would keep it right along Highway 65. So based on that, and until I see anything differently, I'm just going to say, if you're in the area south of Greensboro and south of Quincy and over to around Wetumpka and Gadsden County, you still need to get to that safe place. We're talking along Highway 65 over to 267 in Gadsden County. You need to get to a safe place too. The other storms, which again, this is the only warned storm as for a tornado, but the storm that I mentioned a few moments ago over into moving out of Hamilton into Eccles County, there's a severe thunderstorm warning for that cell, and that one is moving up into parts of Clinch County. That cell, and that looks like it likely has some damaging winds. I'm going to check out the winds with that, and no circulation there, but where you see that bright green that moves up to the central parts of Eccles County, those are likely some damaging winds. And yeah, there's pretty good hail signature too with that. We'll get it nice and close. So this is moving right over Highway 94 through through Eccles County rather. It's as I mentioned before, typically the hail signature kind of shows up a little behind. So this could actually be a little bit north of Highway 94 in Eccles County. But there you see a new image, so it shows the hail a little bit smaller. That's good because the previous estimate on that would have been hail up to about 1 inch in diameter. So now we're talking about getting up to around nickel to quarter size hail. that's what the cell that's moving through northeastern parts of Eccles County and moving up into Clinch County. That's a severe thunderstorm warning for hail and damaging winds. This will likely stay just to the west of Fargo, and if it keeps going on this path, it would likely pass to the east of Homerville. So folks in Clinch County also need to stay weather aware. Still, the main weather threat continues to be this confirmed tornado, which we know that it's caused some damage. Hopefully it was trees, but we saw plenty of debris in the Hosford area as this cell moved on by, and it is moving up into the extreme southwestern parts of Gadsden County. Let's go ahead. All right, this is encouraging that the velocity signature is not as pronounced as it was. That little turn that I mentioned where it was kind of turning a little more toward the north, this thing could have kind of cycled itself out a little bit. There is still a definite circulation there, and we're certainly not writing this thing off just yet, but it does appear that it is weakened. There is still a small, strong couplet that I'll get in a lot closer here. We're talking about the area right there on Highway 65. So what you're seeing, let me just give you my little drawing tool. So this is the Gadsden Liberty County line right here. We've got Lowry in Liberty County. We've got this little segment right here where it's still showing some winds likely up near 100 miles per hour. But now it appears that it's kind of, I don't want to say it's separated. It's not turning into two tornadoes, but it does appear to have been broadening out a little bit. So there's not as well defined a tight circulation and a small circulation as what we saw earlier. And this is the loop over the last 30 minutes, and you can see the area. This is when it became rather frightening as it approached Hosford. And there you can see that was at 3:58 and continued to have an even scarier presentation as it got just to the northeast side of Hosford at 4:03. And since then has shown at least some signs of weakening as it continues to move off toward the northeast. There are some other storms that we're also keeping an eye on, non-severe ones, but we've got this line coming through parts of Wakulla County, and we've also still got the line of storms which has been just plowing through Panama City. It's their second bout of very strong and severe storms. That one is also at least showing some signs of weakening, but there were very likely some damaging wind gusts with that cell as it moved through Bay County, and there is still an active tornado warning for parts of Bay County. We'll worry about that if it holds together as it gets closer to our viewing area, say in about a half hour to 45 minutes. But for now, the main threat, and this does, again, it's a couple of encouraging signs with this tornadic cell moving into Gadsden County, and that not only have the velocities decreased, but the lightning has decreased considerably. It's moved into an area where the air was a little more stable. So perhaps this is all a good sign. I'm going to check a couple of velocity signatures, and absolutely, this is nowhere near the intensity of what it was just 10 minutes ago. So I'm not ready to write this thing off just yet, since the National Weather Service still has a tornado warning in effect until 4:45. But if this trend continues, especially if we get one more scan in from the radar, if this weakening trend continues, then we can get back into our 4 o'clock newscast, and I'll continue to monitor this. I'm here with Josh Green. We've been tracking all of this stuff for the last hour or so. This cell earlier had some hail with it. That has also decreased, so there was definitely hail around Hosford about the same time, but not any longer. The other storm that had hail was this one moving out of Hamilton into Eccles County. That one has weakened as well. All encouraging signs at this point. Regardless of all that, there is still going to be rain and thunderstorms and lightning and some damaging wind gusts. The whole area is still under a severe thunderstorm watch until 7 o'clock. Our easternmost counties, that's part of a new watch that was issued that goes until 10 o'clock. But once this main area comes through, most of the severe threat will be gone. I say most because we've already seen that the Panama City got hit twice within a couple of hours. So even though you've had some strong storms, some of these coming in behind it still have enough of a punch to be severe. So even though if you're, say, in central Wakulla County or into Gadsden County and you think, okay, this is the worst of it, you still have to watch out for these other cells coming in farther from the west as they move in. The severe thunderstorm warnings, there are still a couple of those in effect, with the main threat being damaging winds, and that does include a little bit of southwestern Leon County, but the main threat is for that cell moving through Gadsden County. Yeah, Josh Green's showing me that still we're still seeing debris from this tornadic cell in moving out of Liberty County into Gadsden County, and we're talking about this area right through here. You're going to see this little green blob that kind of shows up. That's debris from the tornado. Now, you'll also notice that it's still showing some of that. Remember, I should talk about that little turn where it looks as though that it kind of weakened and maybe kind of pivoted more toward the north. That's where some of that debris has gone to. That's right along that Liberty Gadsden County line. So that's the white line that you see right here. That's the county line for Liberty County and Gadsden County. And so up here, we've got, this is Highway 65 right through there. And over here, we've got Highway 267. So it's likely staying to the west of that. But still, this fact that we're still seeing some of this debris in the air and it's kind of circulated back off toward the northwest means that there's still a threat. But just based on what we're seeing with this velocity signature, it certainly looks as though it has weakened as it's gotten kind of just hugged Highway 65. There are still some pieces of broad circulation involved in this, but it does look like, based on what I'm seeing now, that we may be able to get into our 4 o'clock broadcast, and I'll certainly keep a very close eye on this and keep you posted as we go through. We're still talking another couple of hours of dealing with this threat, but the tornadic cell in Liberty County appears to be rapidly weakening now as far as that circulation goes as it is moving into Gadsden County. That's pretty far south of Greensboro, but along Highway 65. So we'll still want to stay very in tune with that. We're going to take a quick break and then start the Okay, yeah, we're going to go ahead and just go right into our 4 o'clock newscast, and Josh and I will continue to monitor things, and of course I'll have an update in just a few more minutes. But for now, it's on over to Ben and Katie. Last half hour or so, temperatures will stay in those mid-60s tonight until tomorrow morning, then get back up into the 80s, a little bit of a break. So we've got this complex system with part of it up here, another big part of it coming through our area. Obviously, this is way too slow to initialize, but I think the overall pattern still shows a reasonable solution, which is the next area of storms primarily moving over parts of the Gulf of Mexico, but then the next system starts to come together, and that's going to take a while, but it's going to be mainly a Saturday night through Sunday morning type of event before things start to get better. Okay, so just got message in that the tornado warning is now in effect for Wakulla County, so I'm going to step out so I can, you can go ahead, Josh, if you want to drive the radar, and we'll get in. Should be up at the top of my show, and we'll start telling you about what's going on with this cell that's in Wakulla County. I mentioned some of those storms down toward the coast, so here we go. This is the cell, and the warning does include parts of southwestern Leon County. So this is the new tornado warning for Leon and Wakulla that goes until 5:45. The larger circulation that you see right here, that's that mid-level mesoscale convective vortex that I mentioned. And if you really want to get into the weather nerdy stuff, it's called an MCV. Ahead of that, you get these bands of stronger storms that kind of bow out. They can do two things. They can produce these damaging winds, but also can produce some tornadoes. So that's the reason for this. And we've seen some of these circulations that have been relatively weak, but this one has certainly come together enough. Josh, if we can check out the velocities on this and see what they're looking at, it appears to be a rather broad circulation. I don't see anything super tight coming out of this. So I'm assuming this is the circulation because I don't see anything that really stands out. Yes, there's what we call a couplet. We've got that red and green side by side, but this is nowhere near the intensity of what we saw with that cell that moved through Liberty County and got right to Gadsden County earlier before it weakened. Put this into motion, and now you can start to see where that red and green kind of comes together. So this is, again, a relatively weak circulation at this point, but it certainly has some potential to strengthen. If we get one more scan that shows this pattern that's relatively broad, I don't see anything super tight with that, then, okay, so Josh is telling me that they say a tornado was observed. I'm a little surprised by that because I think there may have been a funnel cloud with that. It's not likely that something reached the surface, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. It just doesn't show up strongly on the radar. And this is coming from Tallahassee's radar. Josh, I don't know if you slide the velocity more to the west. I don't know if Eglin will give us a little better picture of why they were seeing that. Yeah, it's kind of out of that range. So, yeah, this is the little circulation here. Now this is coming from a much more distant radar, but it does show that there's that kind of little small couplet. All right, let's slide back over to the Tallahassee's then, and we'll look at this over the last, put this back into motion, and we'll show you how that little couplet right there. And again, I think this was based more on someone saying they saw a tornado. Now, I can't say that this is or isn't for certain, and just because a lot of times you get these low-hanging clouds and you might get a funnel cloud, or you can get some rotation within a thunderstorm, and with some of these downbursts, sometimes you get these low-hanging clouds that look like a tornado but could possibly not be. I hope that is the case. I hope this is a case where it was just something that was aloft that didn't reach the surface. But based on an observation, that's why the National Weather Service issued this tornado warning. I still don't see anything super tight. We'll stay on this for one more scan as far as this is concerned. Here is the warning, and this is again until 5:45. That's mainly for the southwestern parts of Leon, the northwestern parts of Wakulla County, as the cell moves generally off toward the east-northeast, but moving around 20 to 30 miles per hour on average with these. So that's a fairly good pace. This is south of Fort Braden, south of Lake Talquin, mostly Apalachicola National Forest land as you get down into the extreme southwestern parts of Leon and the northwestern parts of Wakulla. But the whole area is still kind of being enhanced by this mid-level low that you see back here, and that's what's been adding that extra bit of lift to some of these storms, which is why we're still getting some of the stronger ones. The area in yellow, the larger area in yellow, that's a severe thunderstorm warning, and it's so big because there could be severe storms almost anywhere along that line. That severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for about another 33 minutes as it moves into Leon and Wakulla counties. But the main threat right now, based on an observation, being that tornado warning for the extreme southwestern parts of Leon County and the northwestern parts of Wakulla County. Again, based on an observation, we're not seeing a super strong rotation showing up on radar. I still don't see it. So if there was something there, I don't think it's there any longer. It's very unlikely that we're still seeing anything there. I'm going to step out just for a second and just ask Josh if you've seen, has there been anything else from the Weather Service?
There's a small CC signature in northwest Wakulla County.
Okay, so they're talking about the correlation coefficient. So let's look at that and see if we can see anything that may have been there. Yeah, it's hard to say. There's a fair amount of noise there. Keep that animating. And I think we're talking about this little area. Okay, I think it's actually, so freeze it and back it up. I think it's what we're talking about was back here, right? I saw the one little flash where it looked like there was right there. So back around 5:19, I think that's what precipitated this tornado warning. Was that does look like there may have been some debris briefly back at 5:19. We have not seen, we'll put this back into motion and you'll see that that little bit kind of disappears. So that's an encouraging sign. let's go back to velocity and we'll check it out one more time and see if there's anything that looks ominous or something that's dangerous. I do not see that. So tell you what, based on that, we're going to go ahead and step away and go to break. Josh and I will look very closely at this. I do not see any kind of an imminent threat here with this particular cell any longer. So I would expect that this tornado warning will be dropped very soon. There is still the threat for some damaging winds and some hail along with some of these other storms. And there still could be a couple other little spin-ups along that. But we'll have continuing coverage coming up on Eyewitness News at 5:30. For a good chunk of Gadsden County, that's until 6:30. Now, this one is not as clear-cut as the earlier warning that for the tornado that we know caused damage through parts of Hosford. This is a little more of a complex setup. There's a large area of low pressure relative to what's going on. That's why you see this larger spin. So it's not a huge tornado being 25 miles wide, but that is an area of low pressure, what we call a mesoscale convective vortex, or MCV. And the front end of that can typically create this extra bit of lift, and there's an extra little bit of spin in the atmosphere. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that when you get some of these MCVs, that you'll get some additional spin ups. So the area that we're looking at in particular is here through the central parts of Gadsden County. Now, while the warning is for a large area in Gadsden County, it appears that the most likely area where we're seeing that spin kind of tightening up is pretty close to I-10 between Greensboro and Quincy. Again, this is still just kind of starting to come together, but Josh Green driving the radar, and you can see how this little spot right here, and again, there's so many other things going on with the larger area of low pressure. That's why you see that very big, broad circulation. What we're looking for is more of that little tight area where you see that red and green coming together. And we saw a classic example of that, unfortunately, with that cell that moved through Hosford, causing the damage there to many structures. This one is not as well defined, although, again, it appears that this is the most likely area where we're starting to see that little bit of red where it kind of peels back into it. So, yes, that appears to be, again, this is very close to I-10. Because of all the other stuff going on, you may not, it may not be exactly there, and it may be a little more difficult to track than your classic little tornadic signature that we see. Josh, let's check the CC, the correlation coefficient, and see if there's any kind of a sign of anything. I don't see anything. There's a lot of noise here, but we don't see, and we saw a classic example of debris showing up on this with that earlier Liberty County tornado around Hosford. We are not seeing that with this, so that's encouraging. As far as that, let's go back to just the regular radar. A couple other things going on. Let's widen out a little bit because severe thunderstorm warning is in effect now from Gadsden County through Leon and Wakulla counties, and that's been extended all the way over toward the Jefferson County line. That's just for the threat for some damaging winds and some hail. That goes until 7 o'clock. That's all in advance of this. And while technically these warnings do not extend up into South Georgia, let me just say that the storm that produced the tornado in Hosford, it's the same one that came ashore near Panama City. It cycled through a couple of times. And while there's no warning for this, we've still seen some signs of a weak rotation from time to time with that particular cell. Let's go to the velocity on this, Josh, and we'll have a look. Again, it's not super strong, but this little area right here, there's not much of a gate to gate. We don't see that red and green really coming together, but there's still, this is that same cell, and then again, this will stay to the south of Cairo, but move up toward Highway 84. Just something to watch. The atmosphere is not as conducive to further spin as you get farther up into South Georgia, so very likely this will do nothing more than just be a kind of a broadly rotating supercell thunderstorm, which has been doing now for about an hour, but it's the same cell. It's the same thunderstorm, I believe, that dropped the tornado back over parts of Hosford. So we'll continue to monitor that, although it's, again, no signs right now of a tornado being with that. The tornado warning is for this area, which is getting closer and closer to Quincy. So if you're in the Quincy area, get to a safe place. This is moving rather quickly at about 30 miles per hour, so it won't take long. Even if there is nothing more than just a circulation aloft, you can still get some damaging wind gusts with this. The areas in green very likely indicate these lighter greens. Those could be winds in excess of 50 or 60 miles per hour. So even if the actual circulation with this cell stays aloft, there could be some damaging wind gusts with this crossing over 267. So headed south out of Quincy, that's where some of those stronger winds are coming at you right now. And while there's not a super well-defined couplet, that gate to gate, the toward and away winds right next to each other that you would get with a tornado, the warning is there for a reason. And it's because of that larger circulation and then this little part where there's extra spin in the atmosphere. So while it is more likely that this is just a broadly rotating storm with some damaging wind gusts associated with it, there is still that possibility for tornado. So the tornado warning will continue for Gadsden County, and again, primarily for this area, I would say near and just south of Quincy. So from Quincy down to I-10, go ahead and get to your safe spot. What are we talking about? We're talking about lowest level of your home. A mobile home is not a safe place to be in a tornado. An automobile is not a safe place to be during a tornado. So you need to get into a stronger structure. You need to get into the lowest level and an interior room. So that's away from windows so that if the worst happens, if it hits, you want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Don't worry about that southwest to northeast movement with some of these. Just get into an interior room. And if this becomes an imminent threat, if we see that this looks like a bona fide short tornado, then you'll want to get into a bathtub. You'll want to put a mattress over you. You'll want to get helmets on, a bike helmet, a baseball helmet, whatever it might be. Protect your head, protect your family. It's not quite to that level where I'm as worried as I was when we saw that cell moving through Hosford, but there are still some very strong winds. These areas, Josh, can we query some of these and just see what kind of wind speeds we're looking at for that area? All right, 60-mile-an-hour winds, that seems very possible. Now, the good news is we're not seeing that we call that strong gate to gate. So we're not seeing that wind away and toward side by side, but we are seeing that wind speed with this little part of it coming down, especially just south of Quincy, of 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Looks like the new image just coming in as we speak from the National Weather Service radar, and there's still this area crossing over 267, and this will be getting closer and closer to Highway 90 as you're going into Quincy from the east. So if you have any travel plans, you certainly want to wait. If you know anyone that's traveling out of Quincy, or if they're traveling in from, say, Tallahassee, and they're getting close to Quincy, I want to just give them a little ring and tell them just wait until the cell moves on by, because there could still be some damaging winds. Not to mention, it's always going to be a threat to some high-profile vehicles like semis. If we're talking 50 or 60-mile-an-hour winds rotating around this. Still not seeing a super strong couplet, but we are seeing what is likely more of a damaging wind threat that's crossing over 267. It's staying pretty close to I-10. So that exit going into Quincy from I-10, that's where we see some of the strongest stuff. And this will be getting closer and closer to Highway 90 over the eastern parts, not the eastern parts of Gadsden County, but east of Quincy in Gadsden County. And this is still a fair distance away from Midway. I don't see any threat for you. I do not see any threats for Leon County. But the tornado warning is still in effect. Josh, have they done any updates at all with in the NWS chat?
Still tornado possible.
Okay, so they're
Indicated.
all right. So yeah, they're still going with radar indicated. That's good because we've seen some that were slam dunk tornadoes because we saw some debris signatures earlier, but now we're just seeing the language is more of if a tornado develops, it would likely be a quick spin up, and we've seen that. So good news there. The bad news is we're still seeing some likely damaging wind gusts, and there is still a little hint of a kind of a little bit of a hook perhaps there, but again, this is not the classic look to that. But the area from Quincy down to I-10, along and east of 267. That's the area that we need to pay very close attention to for at least the next 10 to 15 minutes. And if it continues to weaken, that will be the case. Let's widen out because it's not the only cell that we're tracking. We are still tracking some strong storms coming down through Crawfordville and across Alligator Point and down to St. George Island and Dog Island. Some damaging wind gusts, pretty good possibility there. All those areas under severe thunderstorm warnings. The warnings for severe thunderstorm type winds extends out to Jefferson County, but there are still a couple strong storms coming through southern Jefferson. So from Wakulla over to Shady Grove, there's still a chance for some damaging wind gusts. And as I mentioned earlier, that one cell, it looks like it is continuing to weaken some. The one that very likely the same storm that produced the tornado around Hosford, that is still creating this stuff right here that's just to the southeast of Cairo. The circulation is nowhere near as strong, nowhere near. That's why there's no warning for it, but it's part of the same storm. So you could still get some small hail. You could get some damaging wind gusts. These don't look nearly as haily as what we had earlier. Josh, let's check the hail signature and just see. I doubt we'll see much in the way of hail. Like, there's maybe a little bit of small hail. This typically runs about 5 minutes behind. But yeah, between Beachton and Cairo, looks like there might have been some small hail. And let's check farther south and see if there's anything coming out of these other cells. Again, not as much. Maybe a little bit of small stuff there just north of Crawfordville. But again, the overall intensity of the storms appears to be lower as far as that goes. It's not poking up as high into the colder levels of the atmosphere to produce the hail. But the tornado warning, while it still continues for a large part of Gadsden County, and that's because of that, again, that larger broad low, it's this area right here, just southeast now of Quincy, from I-10 over to Highway 90, that we're still watching very closely. Let's check the velocity signature one more time and see if this is, there's still some damaging winds. So we're going to stick with this because these winds are very likely exceeding 60 miles per hour. Now we're saying 72 miles per hour. So damaging winds very likely on the southeast side of Quincy right now and moving across Highway 90. So don't get too caught up in the fact that I said probably not a tornado because 70-mile-an-hour winds will still cause damage and you still need to get to a safe place. So if you are southeast or east of Quincy, if you live anywhere near Highway 90, as you go east of Quincy or along 12 east of Quincy, yeah, get into that safe space until this cell moves on by. While it may not be a tornado, 70-mile-an-hour winds will still knock trees down and cause power outages and cause some other issues. So, of course, we've got the rain, we've got the lightning, and there is still a tornado threat, but it's primarily a damaging wind threat for this. Yes, there could be some small hail, but it's the wind. That's the big issue. Still looking at, there we go, 69-mile-an-hour winds. The earlier query that we looked at showed 72-mile-an-hour winds, 71. So we're looking at different spots along this area on the southeast side of Quincy, and we are consistently seeing those winds near 70 miles per hour. And these will likely be the straight line winds. They will not be the circulating type, but still the downburst winds can twist off trees, can knock down power lines, and be a real hazard, certainly a hazard to traffic as well. So as I mentioned a few moments ago, if you know anyone that's driving or will be driving along Highway 90 east of Quincy, tell them to hold off until this moves on by. Tornado warning is still in effect. I'm going to double check and see, have they had any more updates on that at all?
Still radar indicated.
Yeah.
Moving at 40.
Yeah, I have not seen, they're saying moving at 40 miles per hour. Again, it's a large area in red. That's the tornado warning, but it's primarily for that area. That's just to the southeast of Quincy now. That's the main area right here. This is where we've seen the damaging winds near 70 miles per hour. And there is still enough of a little bit of a twist to that. There's more of a mid-level low pressure system that's enhancing this. And this is kind of on the backside of that. It's also a setup too where much in the way a tropical system can have that area that's northwest of the center that gets the really heavy rainfall. You can get a similar type of setup with extremely heavy rain just because it kind of gets stuck in a little area, and that's what we're also seeing right there. So there's probably some street flooding ongoing too. And I know that's secondary to 70-mile-an-hour winds and a tornado threat. There's some very heavy rainfall, again, associated with this larger mesoscale convective vortex, or MCV, which is just fancy terms for an area of low pressure that develops in those mid-levels. It's not quite at the surface, but it's just above that. You can clearly see the little counterclockwise flow. Tornado warning still in effect for Gadsden County. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the leading edge of this. And rather than just try to pick out which areas, little small areas, get impacted by that, they make a really large severe thunderstorm warning. So there'll be some spots, and there are some spots where it's just some plain old light rain throughout parts of Leon and Wakulla counties. But rather than try to fine-tune it to little tiny areas, everybody there should be prepared for damaging winds. Likewise, with the stuff that we know has some damaging wind gusts coming down through parts of Gadsden County, now primarily to the east of Quincy. We'll stay with this a little while longer, just because of that threat for any kind of a spin-up. Let's go back to the relative velocity of this particular system, and we'll get in close. And boy, we are still seeing these damaging winds that just stay stuck in this spot, which now crossing over Highway 90 and some of these stronger winds up near County Road 12, Highway 12 as it goes from Leon into Gadsden County. But everyone that's driven from Havana to Quincy, they know about the little two-lane road, Highway 12, some damaging winds there. And then, of course, the big U.S. Highway 90 with some damaging winds, and also down to around I-10 between, this is now getting closer to Midway. It's not quite there yet, but if you're headed out of Midway toward Quincy, wait. This will be around for about another 15, 20 minutes and should be gone. Down the road, residents in Havana should also pay close attention. Well, technically you're under that tornado warning too, because the warning includes a large part of Gadsden County. It's primarily the damaging wind threat right now from Florida Road, Florida Road, State Road 12 through parts of Gadsden County, and Highway 90 down through Gadsden County to the west of Midway. That's where we're seeing those damaging winds, all kind of tied in with that larger mid-level low pressure system, which has really started to enhance some of these storms. Let's go back to the bigger radar picture. If you're just joining us, we're tracking a tornado warning for Gadsden County, although right now it looks more like it's primarily a damaging wind threat, but we estimate winds up near 70 miles per hour, and that can cause just as much damage as a low-end tornado. In fact, could cause more depending on where it hits. So you still need to get to a safe place. There's still the threat for some damaging winds with some of these storms coming through eastern Wakulla County. That's a severe thunderstorm warning. And the warning now has been extended all the way through parts of Gadsden and most of Taylor County and Jefferson County. So while the earlier warning through 7 o'clock ended at the Jefferson County line, now it's been extended as it crosses over into Jefferson, Madison, Taylor, and a little slice there of the northern parts of Lafayette County. That's all the severe thunderstorm warning. The tornado warning is still in effect for this part of the cell in the area of low pressure back here throughout parts of Gadsden County. And while that warning goes until 6:30, it's primarily a damaging wind threat at this point. Let's look in more closely one time, and may just want to let the 6 o'clock show get going, and we'll monitor this very closely to see if there's any more of a circulation. But as of right now, it's mainly this. It's more of a damaging wind threat crossing over Highway 90 and now getting closer and closer to Midway, and should be in the vicinity of Highway 27 in Gadsden County from Havana south toward the Leon County line, probably then about the next 15 to 20 minutes, where there still could be some damaging winds. We're not really seeing that gate-to-gate, the couplet part that indicates a strong circulation, but there's a broader circulation which is enhancing some of these winds, which are still likely in that 60 to 70 mile per hour range. So we'll step away, I'll step away, and we'll allow the 6 o'clock show to get going, and then Josh Green and I will continue to monitor this very closely. If we see any changes which would make this any worse than what we've already talked about, we'll certainly come right back in. Of course, we'll have our regular weather segments too coming up during the 6 o'clock show.
Okay, I'm Mike. Catch your breath. We'll catch up with you in a little bit. Thanks.
Powered by WCTV.tv. Eyewitness News at 6 starts now.